Alright, so this guy basically never worked, kind of dead out of the box. This guy works fine, but it does not have 21 watt hours of capacity. It only takes like 16 or 17 watt hours to charge it back up, even after 3 or 4 discharge cycles. And so I'd say the battery capacity is actually closer to probably 15 watt hours. So it works, it'll power something, but it doesn't meet its specifications. And the fact that the other one was dead out of the box with some type of BMS issue, I don't recommend them. Don't buy them. So if you want to see the rest of the review, keep watching, otherwise you can just quit now. This is a 2-pack of replacement NP F550 compatible batteries. I was sent these to review for free. If you wanted to purchase them, MSRP is $44, but I've seen a 30% off coupon, so you might get the package for $30. They haven't paid me for my review, and my opinions remain my own. Alright, so in the box we have a USB-A to 2-ended USB-C charging cable. Each of these batteries has a little USB-C port here for charging. Because this is a USB-A port, I'm suspecting it's not doing power delivery or super high power. So it's probably somewhere between 1 and 3 amps for both batteries. So maybe 1.5 amps per battery. These are the smaller 550 batteries, typically used for camcorders. You can use them in a light, but they just won't last as long. The nameplate here says 7.4 volts, 2.9 amp hours, and the capacity rating is 21.5 watt hours. So I'm going to charge these up. We'll run them in my lights to see how long they last, and then we'll charge them up again with USB ports to see how much power it takes to fill them back up, to give an estimate of if this capacity rating here is accurate or not. Now, if you have a battery charger that charges these guys, the battery charger is probably going to be faster than the USB port. We'll see how fast they charge on the USB port. Alright, first I'm going to try them on a USB-C power delivery cable. So the red light turned on, it's doing power delivery negotiation, and it is running at the 5 volt level, and it's drawing 2.1 amps. So this battery here is charging at 10 watts. So that's a pretty reasonable charging rate. If it's a 21 watt hour battery, it takes maybe 3 hours to fully charge this guy up. I am going to switch over to a USB-A to C cable here. So this is not USB-C power delivery, just kind of a regular USB cable. And so that's at 5 volts, and it is again drawing 2 amps, 2.1 amps, so it's doing about the 10 watt rate. Alright, so I'm going to try out their provided cable. That splits a USB-A port into 2 USB-C ports here. And so I have an output here that can do up to 3 amps, and it is providing pretty much that max of 3 amps. So it's 5 volts at 2.9 amps, and it's charging at 14.7 watts, say 15 watts. So if you have a 3 amp USB-A port, this guy will charge these 2 batteries at about 1.5 amps each. But if you have 2 separate chargers, it's probably better to plug them into 2 separate cables, because then they can go at 2 amps each. So basically you get a slightly faster charge rate if you have independent cables and independent chargings for these guys. Still, 1.5 amps for each of them isn't horrible. That's 7 watts, maybe 7.5 watts. So it takes 3 or 4 hours to charge up. Now, I am happy that they do successfully negotiate USB-C power delivery, so you can plug this into any USB-C cable and it will charge. I'm assuming this red light will either go out or change colors when it's fully charged. So I am keeping track of how much power it takes to fill this up, so we'll get an idea of how much charge it had from the factory. Alright, this guy has a green light. It's accepting 0 amps and 0 watts, and it took 10 watt hours to fill it up out of the box. So if we trust the 21 watt hour nameplate capacity here, it came shipped about 50%. Now this guy is flashing red and green. And I don't know what a flashing red and green means because it didn't come with any documentation. But typically a flashing light like that doesn't mean a good thing. So I'm going to unplug it and hook it up to this meter and see what happens when I have it hooked up to the meter. Alright, I plugged it in the meter. The light turned solid red, so supposedly it's charging right now. It's not charging much. It was drawing just 0.02 amps, and now, well, now it's flashing red and green again. So I think it's as charged as it's going to get, because it's 0 amp 0 watts here, but it is flashing red-green. I'm going to try the non-power delivery cable and see if anything changes. Alright, regular USB A to C cable, not power delivery. It's drawing very tiny amounts here, 0.040, so it's not drawing any real current, and it's flashing. So it looks to be an issue with the battery and not the charging cable. Now, I didn't have a meter on this one, so I don't know how charged it got before it started flashing. That flashing indicator may be a problem with the cells out of balance or a BMS type issue. So I'm going to mark this with a piece of blue tape so we can keep it separate from the one that's acting the way it's supposed to. I have a multi-port battery charger. We're going to plug these batteries into it and see if it says anything. So the battery that was working properly, it says, hey, it's 98% full, and it's trying to charge it up a little bit more, but it's basically full. Now the battery that was flashing, when we plug it in, well, it says no battery. Let me try a different port maybe just to make sure, but I think the problem's with the battery. Yep, still no battery. Alright, so this charger has a feature where it will try to restart batteries. So I think if I push and hold this guy, it does activation. And so I think it's going to try and activate the battery now by charging it even if it doesn't detect anything. We'll see if anything happens. Doesn't appear to be doing anything. I put it into safe charge mode, which basically does a lower power charging. Yeah, so that battery may not be working. Alright, so the battery with the red and green flashing light is not turning on my light. So it might just be dead out of the box. Alright, the one that charged properly does turn on the light. So I tried plugging it into charge again, and it just went immediately back to that red and green flashing light. Alright, turn this guy on at 2:50 p.m. and we're watching with the time-lapse camera, and we will see how long that light is powered by this little NP F550 battery. Alright, it is 3:29. I just happened to be out here working and saw the light go out, so I know exactly when it went out without even having to check the time-lapse camera here. So that's 30 minutes plus 10-ish. We'll say 40 minutes. Really 38. Alright, so this guy ran my light for about 38 to 40 minutes. It's supposedly a 20-watt light, so I would kind of expect it to go for a little longer than that, but it's kind of close to the rating. So I'm going to charge it back up, and we'll see how much power it takes to charge up. Now this battery is very warm to the touch, almost hot. So it was being discharged probably faster than it liked being discharged there. Maybe the 1C rate, if it actually is a 20-watt battery, maybe even 2C rate. So it's probably not really designed for lights. It's probably designed for cameras, camcorders, maybe monitors, but I don't think, it's not a 980 battery, it's a 550 battery. So probably using it in a light like that, it's overtaxing it a little bit. All right, if we reset the watt hour counter, it is charging currently at 1.6 amps, about 8 watts. It might be because it's so low or because the temperature's warm that it's ramped down a little bit from the 10 watt rate I've seen previously. It's been about 20 minutes and we're up to 1.96 amps or 9.3 watts at the charging rate here. Okay, we have a green light here. It's drawing 0 current, so it's fully charged. And it took 17 watt hours to charge this guy up. So it claims to have a 21 watt hour capacity, which I would expect to take 25 watt hours with inefficiencies of the charging circuitry and so forth. The fact that it only took 17 probably means the battery capacity is closer to 12-15 watt hour. So it doesn't meet the specification on the nameplate. One of the 2 units wasn't working out of the box, so I really can't recommend these guys. So battery manufacturers are always like, oh, you got to go through a couple of charge cycles before it reaches its full capacity. Well, if you're not doing your full capacity out of the box, something's wrong. But I am going to dim the light about halfway because I don't want to be putting so much draw on that guy that it gets hot to the touch. I'm going to run it down, charge it, run it down, charge it. That'll be 3 cycles. We'll see if it's any better after those couple extra cycles. This guy that wasn't working out of the box, well, still not working out of the box. No voltage at the connection points here either. Alright, it charged up just fine in this battery charger. We will run her down again in the light. Alright, overnight this guy's ran all the way down, turned off. When we plug it into our battery charger here, it's turned off so badly that the BMS has disconnected it from the output, so it says no battery. Now, unlike the one with the blue tape, when I put this guy into activate mode and plug this guy in, it says complete. It just activated it. So like if I plug this guy in, it doesn't even recognize it. So, the activation mode is not working on the guy that was bad out of the box. But now that we've activated it, which is basically just saying, hey BMS, you're ready to start charging again, now I can just plug it into smart charging and it'll charge it back up. So this charger is charging this battery at 15 watts. You'll get 10 watts if you plug it into the USB-C cable with a decent 5-volt supply. So there's not a huge advantage in having one of these high-powered smart chargers, but it's 50% faster charging. Now, if you don't have one of these to activate the battery, plugging in the USB port will also activate it because it starts charging via the USB port. So we're going to charge this guy all the way up, we'll run it down again, and then I'll charge it one last time with the USB port using my meter to see, hey, is the capacity magically improved with 3 or 4 charge cycles? I don't think it's going to improve much. Alright, fully charged, let's run this thing down again. This guy has ran all the way down, so it's time to charge it back up with the meter. Alright, off it goes. We've zeroed out the meter. It's starting off at about the 8 watt rate, probably go up to 9 or 10 here in a bit. Alright, after like 3 or 4 charge-discharge cycles, this guy charged up again, and it took 17 watt hours to recharge. And still compared to the 21 watt hour battery plate, that is significantly less than I would expect, so it does not meet its specifications. This guy here, has a red light, but it's not drawing any real current to speak of. It jumps between 0 draw to like, just a 0.26 watt draw, which I think is basically just power to kind of keep the BMS board running and the light lit up. It's not doing the flashing red and green light, but it's also not being recognized by my battery charger. And perhaps more importantly, it's not being able to output any power to drive any equipment either. Alright, so this guy basically never worked, kind of dead out of the box. This guy works fine, but it does not have 21 watt hours of capacity. It only takes like 16 or 17 watt hours to charge it back up, even after 3 or 4 discharge cycles. And so I'd say the battery capacity is actually closer to probably 15 watt hours. So it works, it'll power something, but it doesn't meet its specifications. And the fact that the other one was dead out of the box with some type of BMS issue, I don't recommend them. Don't buy them.